Greetings, this is AGN for 2/26/2020. And today I wanted to cover, there was an international news story that broke yesterday, and it was carried by a French news agency, and just about every news service in the world reprinted the story. So it was a pretty popular story, and it was interesting. But the thing is, if you read this, you really don't know how that differs from normal. So because it didn't tell you anything about what's normal in China. So if you're not familiar with China, the first part of this video is an attempt to show you what's normal in China so you can figure out what this lockdown means to people. Okay, first, normal life, typical Chinese condos. This is a condo complex in Shanghai. I actually lived here, and this is west of the inner hub of Shanghai, kind of toward west, just not many kilometers west from like the Bund and Pudong and stuff like that, but it's close to the second airport. And this is just what a typical Chinese condo looks like. And up on the upper left is a living room and a dining room, and then there's a little patio area there where this is, I think this was a third floor, and it's a laundry room out there, plus it's a sitting area, but this wasn't used as a sitting area, used as a dog area. This is the kitchen. No matter where you are in China, you have 2 burners, so make the most of it. And a really nice kitchen, modern, really good. The 3-compartment freezer on the right, didn't get a picture of that. And one of the bedrooms, this is a 3-bedroom place. And the bathroom, all in cut polished marble. There's no shortage of marble in China. It's just an endless supply of free labor, so you can slice marble all you want. Just about everybody has marble in their flats, in their condos. This is another place where I lived, and this is actually a single-family home. Upper left, the kitchen is sealed off again, and kitchens are typically on a balcony in a high-rise and anywhere in a single-family home. And bedroom and a bathroom. This is kind of a Japanese bathroom with a Japanese toilet, something to get used to. And this is a typical Chinese fruit stand. Now, if you're walking down the street and you see some, stands of fruit out on the sidewalk, usually it's connected to a fruit store, and you walk in and it goes back, several meters, and it's just all fruit. And this would be probably several times the size of your fruit area in a large Western grocery store. Why? Because Shanghai's 34 million people. They'll go through this fruit in a day. Maybe some of the apples will be left and be okay for the second day, but you're not going to see dragon fruit last more than a day. They'll put it out several times and it'll vanish. That's the funky looking red stuff in the front. And this is a typical Chinese vegetable market. This was actually on the bottom floor of one of the buildings that we lived in, not one of the 2 that I showed you. But this, the bottom floor of this was an open area, like a parking deck, but instead of having cars in there, it was all, groceries, a meat and fish area, vegetables, fruit, everything that you wanted was below, the bottom floor of your apartment building or your condo. And here's 2 different fish stores in the same complex, both selling, fish, if you want to call it fish. I call it fish-shaped toxins because it comes from Chinese rivers, But people in China don't realize rivers shouldn't be green or, orange or yellow. They should be river-looking. There's no rivers like that in China. So the fish is just, toxic things that swim in the water. And then, the fruit and vegetables just off to the side of this fish area. Now here's a high-end Chinese grocery store. This is a 7-story Chinese grocery store, Western style grocery store. On the right, a big wine shop. Not too many California wines. A lot of it's Australian. And Tide detergent. A lot of anything you need from a Western grocery store you can find in here. Florida's natural orange juice. You can buy that for a couple bucks a pop, or you can buy the same thing from Chinese juice maker for 20 cents. And on the bottom, 818 yuan for like a half a shopping cart. So that's $120, $130 at the time for a half a shopping cart full of groceries. It's a little pricey, but if you get the craving for Western stuff, they have it. Now, Chinese street food. I just wanted to show you what it looked like. If you're walking around in China and you're just hungry, there's all kinds of places to eat. This is a shop in Old Town, and on the upper left they are just making stuff somewhere else and bringing it here. And on the upper right, I think they're actually cooking it here. The soup was really good. There's just all kinds of really good Chinese street food. And this was in Old Town. This was a dumpling place, and they make lobster dumplings here. So it's like lobster bisque with lobster bits, cut up inside. And these ladies here were just, one of them's making the bisque, the lobster parts, and the other one's, doing all these dumplings just all day. Her hands, must be ready to die at the end of the day. But it was really busy, and we thought, well, it must be good if it's really busy. And they give you a straw to drink this with. So you basically drink some lobster bisque, and then you tear it open, and there's lobster on the inside. This is another street food thing. This is outside of this was on Halloween night a couple years ago, and this was Happy Valley, an amusement park. And on the way out of the place, they had all these food stands where, they figure a lot of people are, hungry, leaving the place, and they need something to eat for their ride back home. So you can see they're making squid on the upper left, upper right. I think that's chicken, then some kind of omelet-looking breakfast thing, and another, steamer full of dumplings of some sort. More street food, just like quasi sandwiches, and the one in the bottom is actually a street vendor that had some tables. So sometimes you get tables with your street vendors, but street food is really good. There were other trips I took to Shanghai or to China where it was just a short trip. We didn't, I was with people. I couldn't get any street food. Everybody had all the restaurants lined up every night. Chinese restaurants. So this is a place in Old Town. This food here, this meat is lamb. That's what they specialized in, is lamb. Kind of makes you wonder, lamb and shrimp and nuclear hot green beans. And it makes you wonder why, we only have choices of, chicken, pork, or beef in the United States. We don't need any other meats. There's a lot of other meat. And this was a place famous for these pictures on the top. That's called a glutinous ball. In other words, it's like a gooey, messy pastry that you don't want to pick up with your hands. And it's got some kind of sweet filling in it. And like we would make pastry, maybe put poppy seed inside of it, something sweet. This is like sweet bean stuff. It's unrecognizable as beans, but it's sweet and it has a taste other than sugar. It's really good. And on the bottom, more like Chinese fast food, only different than you would see a Chinese restaurant in Europe or the U.S. Here's a Chinese restaurant. This is a big fish that we had one night, just two of us. And really, really, really good. And you can, when you have a meal this size, you can take it home and, have some of it later. Another Chinese restaurant. Now this kind of looks like you would see a Chinese restaurant in North America somewhere. But typically the food is more Chinese. There's no, General Tao chicken or something like that. So these are dumplings and, some kind of soup that's got a lot of stuff inside. And this was this is a wood-fired cooktop here. And fish again. So more toxins shaped like fish. I'm surprised I'm still alive, but, the fish is pretty good. You just gotta have to realize that, if you eat it every day, you're gonna die of cancer, after a year. So low on the fish, minimize the fish you eat. Korean barbecue. This is typical Korean barbecue. You have a, burner with a hood that, goes maybe, it's adjustable up and down. Usually it's just a few inches above the burner. And we had an additional cooktop here. This is a few people eating, 4 people here. And just a lot of Korean barbecue food. You can see the hood on the lower right picture, positioned pretty close to the burner. Japanese restaurant. I didn't get a picture of our sushi platter, but a little bit of sushi left. I think that was just ordering more sushi. Good place, really kind of expensive. And here's a Western restaurant. I wanted somebody to experience steaks, red, juicy steak. And, I just wasn't really, a lot of Chinese people I don't think there are any Chinese beef restaurants where you can have a rare steak. It's bad enough their beef is all on growth hormones, but, you don't know what kind of issues the beef has. So this is Australian beef. So I actually asked somebody, hey, where do I find a good steak restaurant? Because I want somebody to try red steak. And, this was inside of a mall. And, you go pick out your steak. They'll cook it however you want and dice it up and put it in a little boat like on the lower right. And this is the first time she ever had red steak. Really good. Western restaurant. This is Lawai Street, which is a street that runs east-west, a little bit north of the Bund on that side, on the Bund side, not the Pudong side of, the river, the big river. And this is one of many brew pubs. There's just, this is, I don't know, a couple kilometers long and just all kinds of brew pubs and stuff. This is the Shanghai Brewery place, maybe, or that was a place next door. No, it's not. It's not Shanghai. I forget the name of it, but the red building on the left. So, you have a typical, American hamburger and quesadillas. Another Western restaurant. I told her this is a real Italian place. You're going to have Italian pizza, which means you're going to have gooey balls of mozzarella. It's not anything like American style. The world usually eats American style Italian food. But, it's pretty decent if you're really hungry. And this is Hooters. So another time going out and eating Western food. Some kind of a burger, some wings, and I guess that's a burger on the lower left. And onion rings, typical Hooter food. Western restaurants some more. This is Papa John's on the right, which you don't have any trouble finding. Papa John's. They're all over the place. And KFC, they're all over the place too, but we got this delivered. And then now fixing dinner. So this would be after going grocery shopping, having dinner at home. So I just wanted to show you what simple meals look like and maybe more complex meals. So here somebody's cooking, looks like bok choy and noodles and veggies and some kind of soup, some kind of chicken, I think. I don't know. I don't remember what this was. Chinese girls can cook. Dinner at home, or this is some big pork chops and some steam fresh peas from the Western grocery store. And these mushrooms came from her family. They're really good. And rice. This was a pretty good sized meal to have at home, and some wine that I brought to China. Teaching her how to cook omelets, because omelets are not a normal Chinese thing, but really good. And this is on the upper left, looks like bok choy and chicken and potatoes and tomatoes and peppers and some kind of fried rice on the right. And more noodle looking stuff. Actually, I think this is the same as the screen before. Now here's what an extravagant dinner looks like. So this is like what kind of dinner you could expect if you're having extended family. So it's normally, 15-course meal with crabs and fish and, just elaborate dinners. Something, we have big dinners at Thanksgiving, but, it's usually turkey and 5 or 6 other things. We don't have 15-course things to eat, but this is how they do it in Shanghai. Every time, these are 5 or 4 different meals all at the same place with the same guy cooking, her uncle. So this is a story that broke that I wanted to talk about. Now, the first part of this video is showing you what's normal in Shanghai. I'm sorry, in Wuhan. Well, in China, I mean. So this article broke, and it's from AFP, and then I took a screenshot of this, and then I went to look for the article, and it was nowhere to be found from AFP. And I even went to their site, and I searched for that. No one cares. Locked in Wuhan residents, and couldn't find the article, but every news service in the world carried this, so I had to grab it off of the Bangkok Times. So the Bangkok Times, this is the picture that they used, and then when it popped up everywhere else on CNN and ABC, all the news services used the same picture, which it's not even a picture that AFP used. But this is Wuhan, and you can tell the streets are empty. You can tell these are residential towers. Why? Because they have balconies. So these are all high-rise residential towers, which is what this article is about, basically. So this is some quotes from different people. I'm just going to read this stuff. Unable to go out, the 29-year-old is now sealed inside of her compound, where she has to depend on online group buying services to get food. Not allowed to leave her compound. Now, what's a compound? I don't know. It could be one residential building. It could be a group of 3 residential buildings that are tied together. Doesn't really say. But what scares her most is lack of control. First, the entire city was sealed off. Then residents were limited to exiting their compound once every 3 days. Now that's been taken away. You can't leave your compound now. Since then, people have faced a number of tightening controls over daily life, as the coronavirus gets more out of hand. And here is, what's this? I still don't know where to buy things once we've finished eating what we have at home, says, one person. He lives with his wife and 2 children. Some neighborhoods have organized group buying services where supermarkets deliver orders in bulk. But Pan's community, no one cares. The 3-year-old doesn't even have any milk powder left. Pan told AFP, adding that he has not been able to send medicine to his in-laws, both in their 80s. So he normally does that. He goes to a drugstore. You can't go to a drugstore. Why? Because it's not in the compound. It's something you would have to drive to. You're not allowed to drive. You're not allowed to leave. The closed management of neighborhoods is bound to bring some inconveniences. This is from Hubei's Communist Party, saying, yeah, bound to have some inconveniences, but you guys aren't leaving. We got to stop this virus. So we're in lockdown. This is lockdown. Welcome to lockdown. Demand for group buying food services have rocketed with new restrictions. So this is going to talk about, what kind of different services are. So this is group buying services operate through Chinese messaging app WeChat, which is what I use for my whole contact network, which is an ad hoc chat groups for meat, vegetables, and milk. More sophisticated shops and compounds have their own mini app inside of WeChat. So, yeah, there are all kinds of apps inside of WeChat. That's how you get your your Uber driver is inside of WeChat. There's another app for driving cars. So where residents can choose packages priced by weight before orders are sent in bulk to grocery stores. In Guo's neighborhood, for example, a 6.5 kilogram set of 5 vegetables, including potatoes and baby cabbage, costs 50 yuan, $7.11 for 6.5 kilograms. That's 12 pounds of food, 13 pounds of food for $7. They're not jabbing them too much, I guess. You have no way to choose what you're going to eat, Guo said. You cannot have personal preferences anymore. Why? Because picture this, a high-rise building, and a store doesn't want to take individual orders. They just want to say, okay, how many people want food? We're going to send you all the same thing. The group buying model is also more difficult for smaller communities to adopt, as supermarkets have minimum order requirements. To be honest, there's nothing we can do, said Yang Nan, manager of Lao Kunjiang supermarket. I don't know about that Kun, which requires a minimum of 30 orders. We only have 4 cars, she said, explaining that the store, we don't have the staff to handle sending out orders all day. They don't have, 40 drivers. Another supermarket told AFP that it capped its daily delivery to 1,000 orders. We don't do over 1,000 orders. Can you imagine filling 1,000 orders? That'd take you a while if you're a little grocery store. Closing off communities has split the city into silos, because, one neighborhood doesn't operate the same as the next neighborhood. They all have different controls, out there. One building might go together, another building, maybe everybody's on their own, try to find a delivery driver. So in some compounds, residents have it easier to access food, albeit a smaller selection, maybe. And another girl down here says, well, her compound's not sealed off, but they're limited to one person leaving at a time. That's kind of like the way it is in Beijing right now, where this is a mandate, basically, in Beijing, which is, Beijing gets orders from the federal government and from their local government. The local government can't sneeze without talking to the federal government. So in Beijing, you're not allowed to, you can leave one person at a time every 3 days. That's the way it is in Beijing right now, in at least one area of Beijing, because I just talked to somebody today about that. So, a lot of different areas have a lot of different restrictions. Some districts have implemented their own rules, such as prohibiting supermarkets from selling to individuals. So we don't want our supermarket to be bothered by selling to people that walk in, because they should be busy all day preparing orders. In the neighborhood where I live, the reality is really terrible, said David Dai, who is based on the outskirts of Wuhan. Though his apartment complex has organized group buying, he's unhappy with the price and quality. He says a lot of tomatoes and a lot of onions are already rotten. He has to throw away a third of the food that comes. His family must totally depend on themselves, adding the 49-year-old who has resorted to saving and drying turnip skins to add nutrients to future meals, so they don't throw away their skins when they're peeling stuff, because a lot of nutrients in the skins of most vegetables. The uncertainty of not knowing when the controls will be lifted is also frustrating. I have no way of knowing how much food I should buy. So this is a guy in his 30s. Do I buy food for today or the next couple days or all week or for a month? You just don't know. So for an example here, these are some high rises. I just wanted to present a couple things. So, I don't really know how this works out in Wuhan, but everybody lives in a high rise like this. Okay, it's residential towers. And, you might have maybe these, on the left picture, I have 2, 4, 6, 8 buildings circled. So maybe that 8 buildings would constitute a compound that has an agreement with a grocery store. On the upper right picture, there's 6 buildings. Maybe those 6 got together and made some kind of an arrangement. And, maybe it works out to where part of those 8 buildings, where 2 of them, where a grocery store said, okay, we're delivering to these 2 on Mondays, so you only get food on Monday. And here's what you get. You get a basket full of fish, toxins shaped like fish. And you get some potatoes and some turnips and maybe sweet potatoes and some big gourds. And, that's what you get, with your order. And we'll see you in a week, or we'll see you in a few more days. So this is just what it's like. And, I just showed you what people are used to in China. I mean, it's like the food capital of the world. One of, everybody, likes Chinese food, and there's so much variety. But right now, this is what you get. This is like a police state right now. And this is, you get this food delivered to you, and you have to make what you want with it. And as far as going out to a restaurant, there's no going out to restaurants. You eat at home and you get your food delivered. And that's the way these people are living now. That's all we have. Thank you.